Oh my God, that was a car crash. Welcome to another episode of Creatively Speaking, the show where we talk to fellow creative types about their projects, ambitions, and more importantly, their journey into the exciting, challenging, frustrating, but hopefully rewarding world of creativity. My name is Julian Kai, and joining me today is the excellent illustrator, cartoonist, caricaturist, as well as having just published several wonderfully funny and sometimes quite dark illustrated books. His latest one came out just a few days ago, Alcohol and Painkillers, the Journal of a Lockdown Layabout. More on that later. But first, I am pleased to introduce Rich Nairn. Rich.
Hello.
Hello, Rich. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Half asleep, but you know.
Half asleep. Good. Yeah, that's that lockdown lethargy. Is that what that is?
Yeah. That's it. Well, I don't wear normal clothes anymore, so I don't think I can fit them. So.
No, exactly. I'm only wearing this shirt from the waist up. I'm in lounge pants all the way.
That's it. I'm lucky there's anything down below at the moment. You know.
Let's not cut to that camera. So how you doing? Yeah, Rich. So Rich, you're a what would you call yourself? I put illustrator, cartoonist, and caricaturist. Does that sum it all up? Is there a one?
That's pretty good. That's better than what I would do actually, because I normally say cartoonist, caricaturist, but you know.
Well, I was going to write that. I was going to put that, and then I thought, well, actually, you know, you must have done illustrations. It's kind of all illustrations, isn't it? Although I'm not, because I'm not from that world. It's like, is illustrator a different thing? And do you go, it's like, you know?
I've tried everything. I think I've got every single thing that can be possibly use a cartoon for. I've had a go at it because, you know, I'm a bit of an opportunist, I think.
Well, brilliant. Well, let's get stuck in. So, you know, we'll talk about the books that you've got out and the one I've got here. Hang on, let me cut to this. You
clever stuff.
Wonderfully gave me a copy of this for free, and this looks like it's printed on because your handwriting is so fancy. Look at that. I opened that and I said, has he done it to me? But yeah, look at that. That just looks like it's part of everything. It's just not a scrawly biro. So, this book you printed, is this the first one you printed?
That's the first one I did, yeah. I found out that you can do through KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. You can publish your own books. And no publisher would touch these because they're just such disturbing content. So I kind of just, it's much easier way of just getting your work out there, you know. But then the marketing's the hard thing with those. You've got to really try and push it, you know, to get people interested.
Absolutely. So take us right back to the beginning. And was cartooning something you always had a passion for? How did you get into this? You know, you're at school. Is that something you were doing then?
Yeah, I weirdly, I think I could almost pinpoint it to Roger Rabbit. You know the film Roger Rabbit?
Oh, one of my favourite films. Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I always liked cartoons, but when that came out, I suddenly had this urge. I want to be a cartoonist. You know, I don't know why that film, because there's not particularly cartoonists in it, but it just really got me into thinking, I want to do that for a job, you know. And then there was the fact that my teachers hated that sort of thing. So that was kind of a bit of a rebellion as well. So you kind of think, well, if they don't like it, it must be good, you know. So
yeah, I mean, that film was groundbreaking at the time. That had a massive impact, didn't it? Because I think it was one of the first things, or one of the early things where they really cleverly mixed live action and cartooning.
Yeah.
And so did you go, I'd like to be an animator, or did you go, no, I'd like to be a cartoonist?
I think, because I've never understood animation. I think even now it's a bit of a mystery to me. So I find that I think I went to start out doing cartoons, and if anyone had tell me how to do it, I would have done it. But now I'm more set in my ways. I'm more the illustration sort of way of the cartoons, you know, rather than the. I don't know. I could sit and animate lots of stuff.
So you watched that, and did you then go? Okay, well, actually, I'd really like to do that. Let's grab a bit of paper and a pen and then start drawing. And did you then find you had a natural talent, or was it something you had to work really hard at?
Well, I think I'd drawn cartoons before that, as a kid. But I think that was when I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, I want to really kind of stylize these, you know. And so I started really kind of pushing the way they looked and made them a little bit more elaborate than I was before. You know, I think before it was just big goggly eyes and that was it on circles and things. But yeah.
So it sounds like. So it sounds like you sort of started already, because it's like, you know, I could sit and try and draw a caricature and it would just look ridiculous. So I guess it's something you really have to learn and practice. And did you find yourself having to? Because I mean, not saying how old you are, but way back then you couldn't just go on YouTube and look at a wonderful tutorial, which you've done lots of yourself on your YouTube channel, and sort of pick up those tricks and techniques, which there presumably are, aren't there, to sort of get that
Yeah, well,
Get that.
I've done workshops with kids, and I think a lot of teachers will say to them, this is the way you've got to draw. You've got to draw, or you've got to draw this style, and they're all trying to teach their own style. But I would say to the kids, I'll show you my way of doing it, but if you've got your own way, do that, because that's more natural to you. And I think everyone's got their own way of drawing,
Yeah.
Even mine, I think, is very different to a lot of people that I would probably really admire and try and copy,
Yeah.
My work's always going to be very different to theirs.
And that's the sort of important thing, really, isn't it? Because you want to have your own original style. You don't want to particularly look like someone else, do you?
Yeah.
Everyone's influenced, but actually, if you start off having your own style, I mean, everyone sits and doodles. I sit and doodle. I certainly got a style. My problem is if I ever want to get more ambitious and do things like at a different angle, or start. That's where the skill of being an illustrator or a cartoonist comes in. I think it's all very well just drawing one thing. I can draw one thing and keep drawing that, but as soon as I go, okay, I'll do a few of those and have this character looking that way, you've suddenly got, I don't know, there'll be terms for it, won't there?
I think sometimes as well I do find people get me out of my comfort zone, like Ken Boyter, who you spoke to recently.
Yeah.
I've done a few illustration projects with him, one that's coming up this year, and a lot of fantasy projects, and he takes me out of my comfort zone. They're still cartoony, but they've got more of a serious edge,
Right.
And so it's quite nice to have that challenge and someone to push you into doing something.
Doing something, almost for someone else or someone else's vision, or including your vision and mix it with someone else's must be a bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, I think it's good for an artist to do that occasionally.
So as far as artists go, have you ever done anything else other than cartooning styles? Have you ever sort of dabbled in I don't know, traditional art? What we'll call that non-cartoon type art, painting.
Yeah. Well, I did, and I think I feel with serious art, I feel like everyone else does about that. If you don't do the serious art regularly, you're not a professional at it. So if I was to do a serious picture of someone, I'd say that looked terrible, and I'd know it looked terrible,
Yeah.
Because it's so natural just to exaggerate features and make them look silly, Yeah,
so you've not really gone down that road seriously. You've just sort of played around with it.
Not really, no. I tinkered, and then I suddenly now people say to me, still get all the time. I get emails from people saying, "Can you draw me a serious portrait?" And I'm like, "No, it's just not for me."
It's not your thing. Do you ever go through that? And we all do in these sort of realms of doing something creative, and that eternal dilemma of I should be doing a real job. I should be going out and getting a more sensible job because actually what I'm doing here is great fun and enjoyable, and it's what I want to do. Or did you get were you lucky enough to sort of fall straight into making a living out of this?
I had a few horrible jobs. That's what I class as real work's horrible jobs to me. I had one good one. I was a cinema projectionist for a while. That was 5 years
wonderful.
of that. And I realised that if I didn't leave, I was going to be there till it stopped, because now it's all digital. But and it was too much of a comfort for me, so I kind of left. I got a job in a dockyard where all my family have worked, and I'm just not a hard worker. I can't do that. So after a few years, I was like, right, get out of there, and it kind of forced me into doing this full time, which is kind of good.
Yeah, you need
that. There's a theme park that opened down the road, and I could do caricatures there to kind of give me that sort of stepping point to move on to doing it full time.
What sort of challenges did you find then taking that jump? I guess you were slightly pushed into it, so you sort of had to just run with that. And if that's the cartooning was something you did.
Well, the timing was perfect actually, because I found that this theme park opened and then it was summer holidays, and the theme park wasn't very good. So I went to this theme park, and all the guests had nothing to do, so they came to me for a caricature, and it just it was just so busy. So I had that sort of 6-week period where I made lots of money.
So were you employed by them? Right, were you employed by them to be there? So you were going there. So it was again pretty much freelance.
In freelance, yeah, and they didn't charge for a pitch, which is that was good of them, So,
okay, right.
So it was kind of everything I made was mine, which was brilliant. So and that really gave me that stepping point. I did find that afterwards it started to quieten down, so I had to start looking elsewhere. But by then I had a little bit of funding to keep me going. It was quite nice.
Oh, that's good then. So yeah, that was kind of a good, I guess, a baptism by fire of going in and trying it out, but in a relatively safe environment.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always a challenge, isn't it, having to suddenly make a living out of your own creative.
Yeah. But also that's part of the fun as well. You find that you get these patches where the money gets so low, and then you're like, right, I've got to find money somewhere. So you start plugging things. I think that's how you find new projects.
Is that fun? Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There's nothing like, a bit of desperation to get
there's
you
a
going.
window. I think
But
once it gets under the £200 mark, you start going,
yeah,
hang on a minute.
but
It's
there's
getting
that danger of
desperate
just
now,
ending up trying to get a job in Sainsbury's or Tesco's or
That's
Morrison's or
it.
something, isn't there? Though, so
Well,
rather than it's good if you're then pushed to perhaps be more motivated to push your own creativity or something, or think out the
yeah. So
box.
we're not,
But
no more so than this year as well. I found that with the whole lockdown thing, all my friends are out going to work still, and I'm just sort of sitting at
yeah.
home, kind of
Yeah,
bumming
yeah,
along.
and you've been hit because I guess you do the whole wedding scene, don't you? So that's obviously
Yeah,
fallen apart completely. So that must have been challenging.
definitely. Yeah, it has been a bit difficult, but I found that my concern now is now that I've got on with so many projects to keep my mind ticking over during this, that when it does start up again, am I going to be going, I can't cope with this. I
Yeah,
can't do those
yeah.
projects,
He's
and
got used to having working on your own stuff. Do you feel that your style has changed over the years? I mean, if you look at your work you're doing now, your caricatures or cartoons or your book style, and you go back originally, is there a distinct difference in
oh,
the
massively,
style?
massively. I find it changes even a year ago. Um,
Right,
where I started doing my little cartoon diary that I do. If I look back at the first pages of that, I could see I was less comfortable with the format, And it's
right.
when you get more comfortable, you start working out how you can, work on it. It's really strange. But the worst part of that is that I find that almost everything I look back on, I go, well, I'm not too happy with that. you know, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's that thing, isn't it? You always look at your own stuff. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that's just then you evolve, don't you? But and also the stuff you look at to yourself. I do that with photographs I take, and then if I look back a year later and dig out some old photographs, some prints, I then go, oh, I
yeah,
quite like that. At the time, I just thought that was just terrible. And you
that's
look
true.
back, and
Yeah,
it's sort of like it becomes its own after time, doesn't it? So, but everyone's
yeah,
really
yeah.
self-critical, aren't we? We're always very self-critical of our
I
stuff.
suppose. I suppose
But
yes. I don't know. Often people that aren't that don't progress, you just kind of if they're happy where they are and just go, that's fine.
yeah,
You're not really progressing.
you've got to grow. You've got to
Yeah.
grow. So let's
Mm.
move on to so your book. So where do you get? I mean, let's look at this one first before we go on to your latest one.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I dare even try to stick to this one. I shall hold it up like this. Um,
Yeah. See,
this was your first one, and this is a wonderfully sort of macabre collection of stories with titles like. Let me find one.
watch what ones you read.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm going to find them. There's some great titles, and it's all written in verse as well. You've written this as well as
Yeah.
illustrated it, haven't you? So
Yeah.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
find a title of the one I was looking for. Um, there's one. I should have flagged it.
I wonder what you're
I
going
mean
to
that
choose.
one's funny, isn't it? Catherine Scarf and her murderous laugh.
Yeah.
There's the one about the bum. What's the bum for the face one? That's the
Oh, Lizzie embracing her bum for a face. Yeah.
Lizzie embrace and her bum for a face. Yes, I mean,
Well, this
is that her there?
that's her. Yeah. This all kind of links to what I was saying earlier about the theme park that I worked in because I started
Right.
writing that at the theme park. I wrote the poems, and that was all about the staff that worked there. So there's kind of jokes behind all those stories.
Ah, okay.
And it just sat there. And I left it in a little notepad in the office, and I never came back to it. I was going to do a graphic novel, and then it wasn't until after I'd done some stuff with Ken, a book with Ken, that I realised how easy it was to self-publish. And I thought, actually, I'll do this. I'll get this done. So I actually sat through and illustrated the whole book. But the bum face story is quite a funny story actually. There's a friend of mine, and she used to do extra work on movies and stuff, and she got a role in a film. It was a proper role in a film, and she
Yeah.
was quite excited about it. When it turned up at this film, it turned out it was like a semi-comedy porn, and they put her in this big wedding dress, and she was really pleased because she thought she was going to get something really glamorous. And then she put her into this room and said, "Right, put a bum mask on your face, and you got to go."
Put a bum mask.
And so and she hates the fact that I wrote that story, but it's done now. So
Well, no one knows it's her, I guess, but that's hilarious. And so
yeah.
so where do you? So that inspiration comes from there, and obviously the writing the verse. Was that something that came easily, or you struggled with?
I find it writing in verse easier than writing sort of
Oh,
normally,
right.
because I find with normal writing, people are quite strict about the rules of the grammar and making sure it's all correct. Whereas poem, you can be a little bit loose. If you look at the Hunting of the Snark, which is a world famous thing, but it's full of errors,
Right. Yeah.
So with poem, you can kind of break the rules a little bit and not worry too much. So
So do you find the coming up with new ideas? Because I mean, you've got this book out. You've had several other books. I'm going to try and find the page on your Amazon thing and cut to that so people can see. So yeah, you've done quite a few books now, haven't you? And then and then obviously the sort of latest one. So how hard do you find? Because the whole creative frustration, the block, the whole thing of coming up with a new and original idea. Does that come to you freely and flowingly, or is it like getting blood out of a stone like the rest of us?
Yeah, well, I think most people, because I think that's part of the problem. I think a lot of people I know do writing and things. They're not writing about their life. They're writing about just characters they've made up and stories they've made up. Whereas everything I write is loosely based on people I know or blatantly my life, as the latest ones are. So I haven't got to have writer's block because it's all there. It's happening around me, So I never have any problems at all.
So here's your Amazon shop, which you can find by typing Rich Nairn into Amazon, I presume.
Yeah, that's right.
I did try typing your sort of brand name, the Artful Doodler, but it didn't like that very much.
Yeah, I should link that on there, really.
Yeah, so Rich Nairn. So you've got lots here. Look, alcohol and paper. So is that the first one? I know that's the
one I've just released. So
that's the one you've just released. Excellent. So yeah, well maybe we talk briefly about that. So this is the second. Is this the second of?
This follows
of the
from
alcohol and painkillers. Tell us a little bit about how they came about.
So basically, I've got a Patreon page, which is patreon.com/animaltragic. Quick plug. And I've got a diary tip there. And the content on there before was me just kind of video chatting. And I think people would find that a bit boring after a while, me just talking randomly about my life. So I realised lockdown was a very bizarre situation. So I started writing about what I was experiencing. So I thought it'd be fun for my daughter to read later anyway. If I'm long gone, she's got that memory of what we did during this period. And finding a funny outlook at it, because it was such a bleak time, especially at the beginning there, that it was just nice to find a comedy outlook at it and look at the comedy side of it and all the silly things that were happening. And it's just followed on from there that I've just kept on with, just carrying on this diary. I think I'll carry on with it from now on as well, because it's just such a really nice cleansing thing to think of things from a comedy perspective all the time,
Sure. And so is that similar? Is that illustrations with verse, right? With the story of verse?
No, this is more like a comic book.
More like a comic book, right? See, this is where it would have been good for me to have a look at one of these before interviewing you. This is where that's backfired. But okay, all right. So there's two of those. More like a comic book, just your sort of lockdown journals.
Yeah, and it's not. I haven't really gone I haven't taken it too seriously. It's just been kind of me just babbling on the page, just filling it with illustrations. Brilliant. So it's kind of like a sketchbook almost, that it's so kind of rough in its.
Splendid.
I tell the story.
And a bargain of only £7. So go and check out Rich's Amazon account and check out that. But so you also have got we've touched on this earlier, heavily into the whole YouTube thing, haven't you? And putting out tutorials on YouTube and all sorts of stuff there. I'm going to attempt to show something. So how's that going? You're building up your YouTube channel and doing
it's really. I hadn't. Before it was full of kind of these little Victorian videos with me with these sort of puppets doing silly things, and I hadn't touched it for a long time, and I suddenly realised that we were watching a lot of YouTube in lockdown, and I thought, especially my daughter, she'll sit and watch YouTube for ages and ages, and it's always the same thing, like these, the Ryan's World and things that the kids will watch. And I thought, I'm so tired of watching these same things over and over. So I thought, hang on, if we start doing, she loves watching herself, so I thought I'd start doing videos. And the other good thing with this was that, with the family ones anyway, was that my parents could then see what we was doing, even though they couldn't see us. They could kind of be involved in their life,
So you do a sort of mixture, don't you? It's a kind of cartoon tutorial plus a family vlog, isn't it? So you've got your family vlog sections going on.
Yeah, the tutorial sort of came a month into carrying on with the YouTube channel. I suddenly thought the tutorials would be fun because so many people want to sort of learn to draw and do different things and find techniques, and to just be able to just casually talk about the way I would draw a certain character. It's quite enjoyable to do anyway,
Absolutely, no, they're great, and you do a whole variety of stuff sort of for kids. I know we've loved the Gruffalo ones and all those kind of Room on the Broom ones, and this is you doing.
Joker.
Is this Joker? I was going to say I've not got to the end yet. This is going to be the Joker. So they're great. And so that's you enjoying doing that. It's a lockdown project, much like this channel was kicked off during the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah, that's it. It just keeps you sane. I think you've got to keep your brain ticking over. So all these little things, little project, keep them going. But like I say, my only concern is when lockdown ends, you need to carry on with these projects. You can't just stop them. Oh, lockdown's over now. I'm not going to carry on anymore. So
absolutely. When you're busy again, you've got to keep feeding that YouTube channel and putting stuff out. So so it is hard. But I think what you've got with your channel is, as you say, doing these little tutorials are sort of doable. You've nailed it, haven't you? To sort of, you were saying earlier that you've nailed it to sort of about an hour. And I guess the vlog you can just film in family time, as long as you've got time to edit it, which is finding the time outside of family time, which is my struggle always.
Yeah, definitely.
Is doing that.
Yeah, because you've got kids the same age, so it's kind of
Yeah, we both got 4-year-olds, haven't we? So finding time to do any of this is a challenge, and which is why now the fact I've got to try and edit this episode with all the technical mistakes out of it is going to prove challenging with children clambering over you. What about the future, Rich? What about your future plans?
Well, I'll be carrying on with the diary. It's a lot more of the same, actually. I think I've kind of cornered myself into a place where I've got so many of these things going on, and they're so ongoing that I'll have to keep plugging away at them, And my patrons on Patreon page always kind of expect certain things. I make these little critters I make and all sorts of things like that.
I think I saw you did an episode on your channel, didn't you, of those as well, making the little characters.
So it's regular, ongoing.
So more of that. You're going to continue doing the lockdown, the alcohol and painkillers, and
hopefully it'll take more of an optimistic turn as well. I think this next one, the third book, will be even more of a uplifting kind of story.
Well, hopefully, as things start getting back to, I'm not even going to say back to normal because we don't like normal. You've got to do that, haven't you? But then all the whole work starts picking up. Yeah, it is continuing with more of the same and getting on with it. But
I think so. Yeah, it's good for you. You've got to keep yourself sane. That's the best way, isn't it? Just to fill yourself with projects and things.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. It's been great having you on. Apologies for the technical problems. Hopefully no one will have noticed it when I finished trying to chop them all out, but I'm pretty sure they would have done and seen me being all distracted here. I don't look like it in this episode. I'm really conscious of being constantly distracted trying to push a button that isn't working. But hey, people I think are used to that watching this channel. We'll sort it out. So brilliant. Thanks for joining us. And
That's lovely. Nice chat.
I was going to say, what one has to say is, where can people find you? We've sort of mentioned it. Your YouTube channel is The Artful Doodler, isn't it? And that's
The Artful Doodler. Yeah, and my website is theartfuldoodler.co.uk, and you'll see my social media, but it's all Rich Nairn, which is RICHNAIR.
And you're on the Instagrams, are you, and the Twitters and all that kind of craziness?
All that business, yeah. I'll try and do as much of that as I can.
Well, we'll put that in the description below, so you can click those links and check out Rich's stuff and head over to Amazon and purchase his books. Because, times are tough.
Times are tough, yeah. Keep funding me, yeah.
Thanks, Rich.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully that wasn't too painful technically for you and you got some enjoyment out of that. Join us again back here on MindSpuke. Please click the subscribe button and the bell. I think you have to click a bell or something. And join the channel, and we'll try and do some more of these. And see you again soon.